Welcome to the Art of Presence podcast. I'm your host, Christine Pollard. I'm so glad you're here. On today's episode, I am talking with Lauren, and she is sharing about an exciting event that she has coming up. And we touch on topics of community building, relationships, and forming safe spaces. I invite you to notice what comes up for you during this episode. Please feel welcome to share whatever comes up and enjoy. So now I ask you, what's present for you right now?
Excitement. Yeah. I think it's the kind of excitement that's, a little bit celebratory and a little bit of overwhelm at the same time. But I just opened registration for an ecstatic dance event. And it'll be the fifth one that I'm producing. And it feels like a bit of an arrival because we have a good team now and we're kind of getting comfortable with what we're doing and the roles. But it's also, we set intentions to grow it, which feels a little bit like stepping beyond the comfort zone again. And makes me feel like I kind of have to reassess how we're doing everything. And so there's a little bit of like pressure that I feel there. But mostly excitement, mostly celebratory kind of excitement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's all towards that ecstatic dance coming up. Yeah. And so I heard you say is the fifth one. So I hear you like this kind of evolving thing. And you said you have this team now. So is that it like new development or newer?
Fairly new. Yes. So we had the first event a year and a half ago. And we had a DJ from out of town. So it was myself and a yoga studio owner locally here in Mississippi. And we teamed up with a New Orleans-based DJ. And we ended up having 3 events over a year because that was just logistically kind of complicated. And then just through pure happenstance, serendipity, I met someone new 3 days after she had gotten her DJ certification in Bali. She wasn't even home from it yet. And so now we have a local DJ. So we did the first event with her 6 weeks ago. And we're setting the intention of a more regular frequency and to make it more of a co-ed group because the previous events have been women and the men that they drag along with them, maybe. And so we've asked ourselves, how do we convey and communicate about what we're doing so that it appeals to men? We also asked ourselves, should this be only for women? Or do we want men to be included and to be encouraged to show up? And we concluded that we did want men to participate. And so now we're experimenting with how we describe the event. So we changed it from ecstatic dance as the event title to music, movement, and meditation, to try to because it's new to the region. So maybe if we're a little bit more specific about what we're talking about, that it might appeal to um, folks that aren't familiar with the concept, and men who might be interested in music and might be interested in meditation, but might be a little apprehensive about, a something that's ecstatic. So we figure once they show up, well, we can use the word ecstatic, but that maybe it'll be more accessible to a broader group if we rebrand a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear how much intention you've put into this event, and, working with your team to gain clarity on what is it that you want? What are you actually wanting to achieve with this? Who do you want to be here? Who is this for? And, how can it maybe feel a little more, accessible or comfortable, or actually reach somebody that might be interested, you know, with the language that they might understand, that they previously might not have connected with. So, yeah, that sounds really cool. I wish I could come. It sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's it like having this team? Does it feel more supported?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in awe at how aligned and easy it's been. I'm so grateful that the three of us now just are totally on the same page about why we're doing this, and also very unattached to the how. So we all share a motivation around community building, because we live in southern Mississippi, and we've all experienced how lonely it can feel as someone who is on a personal healing journey, and who is inspired to help others with their healing journeys. And so the primary motivation for all of us is just to bring people together and create a safe space for their healing, and then to create community that can, support people's journeys in a sustainable way. And so, we do charge a registration, but that was one of the things we were rethinking in this growth phase is, how can we create a sliding scale so that people who can afford to pay full price are encouraged to do so, but that people who can't afford it can, still come. And, we want to be able to feel good about the energy exchange, because it does take a lot of work to put these on. But at the same time, we're not doing it to profit, but we have to feel good about the money coming in, and like it's a worthwhile expenditure of our, limited bandwidth. And at each point where we've had a decision to make like that, every person has shared their perspective and then been open to hearing everyone else's. And we've kind of like arrived at something we've all felt good about. And honestly, I haven't really experienced that often before. I think that in a lot of cases, especially in professional settings, there's hierarchies and someone's in charge, and like their opinion matters and other people's don't as much, at least. Like you might have a say, but you don't get to decide. And so it feels really good to be part of a team that is collaborative and really heart-centered and focused on positive outcomes above all else. So it's been a really great experience from that perspective.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, that's not really how things are done in a business world. And so to be able to find people where you have a shared vision and shared values, and where you can bring yourselves and work together, so that, like you said, it's not like one person gets to say, like, you can say what you want, but to actually work together completely. When I sit with that image, I just feel like this connectedness and this like really powerful force.
Yes. Yes, it does feel powerful. And I think that participants in the events can sense that too. That they show up and they feel like they're in an they're in an environment, or they're being invited to this dynamic that feels nurturing and respectful, and not there's no little hint of power plays anywhere. And I think that's really key to having a safe space. At least it's one of the things that I'm starting to insights I'm starting to glean through this experience. As I think about how we create a safe space, I think at first when we were envisioning this event series, we were thinking more tangibly, like, okay, we're going to set clear expectations and we're going to, decorate, like make it feel nice. But as we've got into it, I think there's so much subtlety about creating places that feel safe, because that sense of safety isn't something that you can't just tell people they're in a safe space and they're like, okay, great. Like, they have to feel it. Right. And I think the leaders dynamic really imbues that. So yeah,
Right.
It's been cool to see that and feel it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like your team has a safe space together, and that through that you can make safe space for others. Because if that team isn't safe, how are you supposed to expand that container to allow others in to feel safe? And like you said, it was more tangible things in the beginning, but now it sounds like energetically, how do you provide that safe container, so that, because you can't, like you said, you can't just tell people they're safe. It's a felt sense that is entirely their own. So how can you set this up to where they feel safe, that they know it in their body? Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely different way of like setting up an event, right? Like beyond just the physical aspects that you need.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And like you had said before, not wanting, not having any like manipulation. There isn't a gotcha or anything. Like, this is what it is. And we want you to feel safe to explore. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And I've been part of teams like that too, where it was more the events being produced were more profit motivated, and there was more of a hierarchy. And the, you know, the communication with participants was more hypey, like, come to this event because, it's going to be super awesome and you're going to miss out and you're going to feel so like awful if you don't come here. And, and then like, yeah, we try to deliver on a super awesome event, but it felt kind of strange to be like making guarantees like that when we didn't really know what it would be like. And so, in those cases, it was more about like people come and they like buy stuff and they like eat food, like they buy food and they buy, goods from vendors. And so it's just different. But when it comes to healing spaces and that community building that supports people in their healing, it's almost like a totally different playbook. And at least that's what I'm starting to like garner from my experience doing different kinds of events, that, the level of intention and the approach altogether is just more nuanced, because healing is it is nuanced, and it also feels, as you're inviting people to become vulnerable, and so there's so much more trust that you have to establish with them. And so to me, that means you have to hold yourself at such a higher standard to really be trustworthy. And it's a great challenge, and I think a great honor to be given that trust. And I feel like it's helped me to advance in my own path too, and deepen in my understanding of my integrity and authenticity and what it means to be trustworthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you've learned a lot from past events and other teams, and what it has felt like, and this new venture feels very different, but you also have a lot of intention around how you want to deliver what it is that you want people to experience, and that it's not about convincing people why they should be there, but connecting with people so that they know it's right for them. Because you can't convince people to be vulnerable. Like, if you connect with them, it naturally, opens to that. But trying to convince people to be vulnerable, that's, yeah.
Right. Right.
Whole different energy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And, it occurs to me that like people have to like have their own personal interest in healing. That, I guess as an event curator, it's not my job to like to invite people to their healing. It's my job to give people spaces for their healing once they've already decided that that's what they've wanted. And I've actually like had the experience of people, you know, like maybe they kind of got dragged along, and they don't really want to be there, and they feel uncomfortable, and it's awkward for everyone. Like, on one hand, I'm glad they came to have an exposure to, like, this is a world of, people that have fun without drinking, or, a world of people who think it's fun to, like, do their inner work. And that exposure seems like there's potential value there. But at the same time, the people who are like really feeling it and like really like excited to be there aren't really supported by having like being watched by someone who's like not really about it.
Right.
So, and I mean, on one hand, I'm kind of glad they're there, and maybe it'll like encourage them to make the decision that they want to heal. But on the other hand, I'm like, it's kind of a buzzkill, and if you don't want to be here, you shouldn't be here. The people who are in alignment are going to be getting a lot from it, and they're the ones that we're showing up for, and
Right.
And they're the ones that are really grateful that we're doing this. And that's been so cool to experience, like the thank yous we get afterwards from the people who had felt lonely and who had felt like they, didn't have companionship on their healing journeys. And now they feel seen and they feel understood. And there's something that I think is kind of primal as our need to feel seen for who we are in a full way. And especially in places where there's not a like rich culture of healing and wellness, I think a lot of people end up kind of like keeping that side of them in the closet and not being able to share it with their friends or family because those people wouldn't understand. And so that means that they don't get to show up in their whole expression for the people they spend time with the most. And so it's such a relief for those people to be seen and understood in their wholeness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. From my own experience and from what I've heard from many others that I've spent time with, is the healing journey can be pretty lonely because it's really shedding a lot of, conditioned thinking and behaviors and, things that, masks that you've put on out of self-protection. And it can be really scary to then go be yourself. And I get, do we want people here that aren't into it and maybe are going to be judgy, where this is a place where you're supposed to be no judgment, so you can just be yourself and be free, and some people, can do that, like, let other people's judgments bounce off, but some people who are just kind of starting out can still be pretty vulnerable to that. So yeah, there's like this line of, what are you trying to what are you wanting, people to experience, but then also, providing these opportunities to see what's possible, or, being around people that feel okay being themselves, no matter what they look like that can be really powerful. And it can be really vulnerable as someone that maybe doesn't feel that way to, experience that. It's like eye-opening, and like they might need some support. Like there might be a lot coming up
Yeah.
from that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That kind of gets my wheels spinning actually about, how we could offer support to those people, if and when they do show up, and maybe do it in a way that maintains the integrity of the container that we've created for everyone else. It also gets me thinking about kind of like a funnel where like I could envision, like I'm a musician too and a performer, and I could envision doing like a concert series where like people just come because it's a concert and it's for everyone. Like maybe there's weirdos there, of course, but like there's normal people like that, like are like inhibited in like ways that mainstream people often are. And like one of the things I do in my performances is kind of like adult version of hokey pokey, like let's do a silly dance together, which is like a very like low key way of inviting people to like dance like no one's watching, and so I could just like give little bite size like impressions of what it is to be at an ecstatic dance, letting it all loose, and then like invite the whole audience to come to an ecstatic dance event, and then like expect the people that would show up actually enjoyed their hokey pokey during the concert,
Right.
and then that way you still like you're putting it out there for the broader like audience, and if someone's like, if their interest is piqued, then they could like commit in a more you know uh like full way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when people have permission to be right as they are, whether they're uncomfortable, whether they're vulnerable, whether they're, fully in their selves, that knowing any of those and in between is okay to be. That you don't have to look like this person. You don't have to have this experience, that you are welcome here as you are. To relieve the pressure of needing to be a certain way, or wondering like, is it really okay for me to be here?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like at the dances, while we're like setting those expectations, um, we could do something like we have a meditation corner that we create every time. So we could like invite people that didn't want to be on the dance floor to like sit in meditation, or do whatever they wanted in the meditation corner. That way they had a place they could go, and like a thing that they like felt was okay to do if they didn't want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like an extra safe space
Right.
for those that are curious and willing to maybe explore but aren't quite ready or comfortable enough to participate in the movement aspect of it.
Right.
Because there's, I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like movement can be one of the most vulnerable things. Like, I spend so much time in sharing circles, and people will share, like, that's one layer, sharing vulnerable things with other people and being seen and heard in that way. But anytime I've done movement-based ones, being seen, that is way more vulnerable and intimate than anything I could ever say. Right? So it's like,
yes,
all these layers open up for healing, but also just like it can touch on so many different things. Yeah,
that's true. Which I think is why it's so powerful and why I'm like motivated to do these types of events. But it's a great point, like for people who aren't used to it, it could be overwhelming. Yeah.
yeah. I think, music helps, right? I think that's part of it. But also, bringing it back to the container, the energy, the, purpose, like just, again, knowing why you're here. Yeah. I'm excited for you. Like, I can't wait for this event. I want to hear about it when it's done.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And how wonderful that you have now this local DJ and, being able to create events a little more easily. Yeah.
Yeah. Very grateful.
Yeah. I just think it's such a neat concept and container. I don't know that everyone would think of dance or ecstatic dance as like a healing space. Like if you were just to hear about it and not know anything about it. I mean, it makes sense, absolutely, but it's really cool. I wish there were more community-based like healing events. Like, sure, I know of lots of different sharing circles, and I love those. It's nice to have other things too, and like a whole body experience.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting how different areas the communities develop and like create offerings for the people in their regions. And I've seen the community in Washington, D.C. has a really, I would call it mature ecstatic dance group, like to the extent that there's very frequent ecstatic dances, but also contact improv, which is like a even deeper like level of vulnerability, and then there's like a whole there's like a whole selection of like movement based healing offerings, and then in New Orleans there's really one hub, but they have a group that does weekly events, and they call it Conscious Movement. And sometimes it'll be yoga, sometimes it'll be dance, or other modalities. And actually, the woman who runs that group is I want to say psychologist, but I'm not exactly sure what her area of specialty is, but she's done research on the power of conscious movement, and especially in groups, and how effective it can be for mental health. And so it's, yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, it exists in different areas. Like I know, like the DJ where I live learned about ecstatic dance in Costa Rica, where there's like a very mature community, and then like in the Bay Area of California is where like ecstatic dance, the organization, was birthed. So I think some locations have a very like robust community and lots of offerings. And then for those of us who don't live in those places, like it's on us to create it. And that's why I started doing the events here in Mississippi, because I moved here from DC and I missed those opportunities. And I could only drive to New Orleans so often. It's like an hour and a half away. So that's where I landed. It's like, I guess if I want this to exist, then I have to just make it happen. And then it's like, as soon as I made that decision in my mind, like it just started unfolding. And I think that's like, I don't know, maybe it gets a little woo woo, but like there's something about just deciding that that you care enough to do something that like helps the path unfold before you. And like it was a couple weeks after I made that decision that DJ in New Orleans reached out and said, "Hey, does anyone in the surrounding areas want me to come to you?" I was like, "Actually, yes." And so then I go online to ecstaticdance.org, and they have all these resources. Like, they have Ecstatic Dance Manifesto, like this description of like why we dance and like, the purpose. Like you were talking about, they have like flyers already designed that you can just print out. So there's resources that like make it, that was my experience, at least, is that like the hardest part was making the decision to do it. And then everything else kind of came together, even to the extent of like finding this DJ randomly, like meeting her right as soon after she like got her DJ certification. So I don't know, maybe the universe is like, like on our side when we decide that we're gonna like put something positive into our communities, and do it for the right reasons. So yeah, I guess that's my little pitch that like people should not be afraid to embark on these kind of ventures, because it's very rewarding, and I think it's appreciated and it's needed. My personal opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. What's coming up for me when I hear you talk of all of this is in the dance itself, like the freedom to move as your body wants, like, is so countercultural because there's so much in our lives where we have to restrict ourselves to be a certain way. Mm-hmm. And just like thinking about the freedom that the body can have to just move freely the way it wants. Mm-hmm. And, that choice. But then I'm also kind of seeing that in like this choice that you've made to bring this forth. That like once you made the choice, like all these things started opening up and flowing, and there's this freedom of movement now, right? Because like before it's kind of contained and either stuck or, but then you made this choice and you opened it up, and now there's all this movement and this energy, and it's like attracting, all the things, because it's out there. right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel that excitement, like it's palpable even just through the screen. Like, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm really excited for you. I hope when is the next event?
It's October 1st. So we're loosely scheduling them around the full moon. Mostly because that tends to be a time where people are feeling energetic and um, yeah, open to connecting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so fun. And I think it's just beautiful, a beautiful way to form community under this container of being yourself. And how many spaces there aren't available
Right,
for that. Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what that brings up for me is like the comparison to yoga, which similarly to dance, yoga is like something like an embodiment practice where like people are invited to connect with their breath and like pay attention to their bodies and center themselves. And yet my experience, at least personally, around like the yoga culture in the United States is that like people show up to studios, they take their class, and they go home, you know? Um, and so, and also they're looking forward at the teacher and they're like following the teacher. And so it has that structure that we're used to. It has the, um, follow the rules kind of mentality that we're used to. And that's actually so different than ecstatic dance, which says there is no teacher. You're invited to look at each other. You're invited to like dance with each other, engage, or say no if you don't feel like it. And there's no talking, and yet somehow like, you're able to like really feel connection with people because 5 seconds of eye contact while two people are just like dancing, free form, um, like it feels so you end up feeling really connected to that person far more than if like you were next to them in yoga class for 5 months and barely exchanged a hi, how are you, I'm fine, thank you. um, so it's yeah, I think it's a really great way to form community. And one of the ways that we're kind of going above and beyond to encourage that is afterwards we offer snacks and we offer tea and we invite people to get to know each other, so that it's a time for processing and integration, because a lot of times the conversations that we have over snacks are like, oh my gosh, I was just overcome with grief thinking about like my dog that passed away last year, and I realized that I never processed those emotions at all. And then we're like, oh, what was your dog's name? Like, oh my gosh, like let's like, create space for you to like talk about that now. Whereas, like, if you thought of your dog and your unresolved mourning during yoga class, like, you would just go home and, like, continue not thinking about it. And so, so it's something that we think is really important, having that time afterwards to just, like chit chat and connect and have a more, you know, open space for building relationships with each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because you don't get that in a yoga class. and to it's just like different layers of connecting, because first you're dancing and there's the no talking, and there's like these different boundaries. Like I feel like it's a great boundary practice too, because it's like, oh yes, do you want to dance this one? No, like but then to be able to connect in a different way later, like, yeah, just it sounds like it meets a variety of needs for relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Really cool. I love how much just intention and thought and heart has gone into creating this event.
Yeah. Feels really good.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe this is a good place to maybe wrap up. And so I would just like to maybe end by just naming maybe what you're taking with you from this conversation, or what. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Sure. Yeah, I really like what you said about offering permission to be as like a way to create comfort and safety. And so I think that will show up at future ecstatic dance events. And I'm also, I guess, starting to do some visioning about how we can have events for the broader community that doesn't necessarily like identify so much as someone on a healing journey. But I think, and actually the permission to be is especially resonant for me because the name of my band's album that came out this year is Just Be. And we called, or like, our description of that album was an invitation to a journey of arrival. And, you know, I think that that's like, I do consider my music to be like medicine music or like healing music. But it's also like, it's music. So it's a little bit more accessible to a broader audience. So I'm envisioning, offering performances that extend that invitation to just be to a broader audience of people that just identify as music fans. So I guess I'm taking that with me, like some fresh inspiration to do performances more often here in Mississippi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm taking with me just this community building, like what really goes into it. What it's really like to build relationships, and how to cultivate, not only just like healthy and safe relationships, but healing ones, right? Like we heal in relationship, and it doesn't have to be a intention of like, we're going to heal, but like it's just what happens when we get together in certain ways, or maybe with intention, or with, permission to be. And that is just really exciting to me. I want more of that in my life. So now it has me thinking, like, how do I either create or become a part of more spaces like that? So yeah. Yeah. If it's okay with you, I'd like to do your bio, your intro, and then I can let you go. Is that okay? I was joined today by Lauren. Lauren Lee Illing is a visionary entrepreneur who finds her flow through curating community gatherings and creating strategies that inspire healing, prosperity, and innovation. As a lifelong poet, songwriter, and musician, she finds creative expression through her band La Raleigh. Through her independent consulting, she co-creates ventures and events. Lauren Lee is a philosopher's wife and mother to a spirited 4-year-old son. And I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Lauren. I hope whoever is listening also enjoys it. And if it's okay, I'd like to link to your band and your professional work, if that's okay. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this, I will link to where you can find more of Lauren. So thank you for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Christine.
I loved it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.